Hello, today we conclude our little series on American malts with a bunch of stuff from Westland. Westland Distillery in Seattle was founded around 2010 or so. Has since been bought out by, I think it's Remy Cointreau. And but they make some good stuff. I tried their basic malt a couple of years ago. I rather enjoyed it. But this is a run of, they're calling it finishes. It's really secondary maturations. That's a collaboration between them and Sealbox, a shop, and the Bourbon Reddit folks. Now, last week I had a little bit of an embarrassment because I did a huge flight of 6 higher proof fruit brandies, and I got myself in trouble. I was sloshed at the end of that. And I said to myself, I am never going to do that again. But here we are with yet another flight of higher proof spirits that go up to 6. And I'm doing this basically because I don't want to split it up. I want to have all of these together because I want to get the full range of what they're doing here. So, but anyways, the lesson to take from that video is take alcohol content seriously. Take intake seriously. Even when you're in kind of a reviewing context, that doesn't make you immune. Like you, coming from wine, like you go to a wine tasting. I hate these caps. You come from a wine tasting background, everybody spits. Everybody goes to their first big event, like a big Bordeaux tasting or something, and they're like, I'm not going to spit. I'm not going to waste wine. That's wasteful and terrible. This is a great vintage. I'm going to go in. I'm going to drink everything. And you learn very quickly, you spit or you die. Like you spit or you are like just in a corner, you know, fighting for your life. So yeah, it's. I am not going to spit today. I don't think we're going to get that far into the danger zone. But yeah, if you want to evaluate this stuff seriously, you have to take the biological side of it seriously. So I've just had a enormous lunch of slightly spicy jollof rice. I'm hoping that it won't affect my palate too much. But really what I'm hoping for is that we'll hold off on the inebriation for a little bit. I have got my huge mug of water one more time. Anyways, let's get started on these. I'm not going to go through all the details as I go through these because it's just going to take too long. Basically, you're getting a whole bunch of 7-year-olds with different secondary maturations. It says on the label finishes. These are like 3-4 year long finishes. That's a secondary maturation. All right, so I've tried to arrange these based on, I think, lighter to heaviest. There are 2 maple casks. One I'm pretty sure was peated, and I put it at the end. I just had a little nip of these last night. We're going to start with the first maple cask. Now, this is cask number 6059. 5 malt barley, 7 years old. Alcohol is 51.5%. Yeah, the secondary maturation was done in maple. So this is not an ex-maple syrup cask, right? This is a maple wood cask, and that's a little bit different. This is something you occasionally, not often, but occasionally you will see this used as an alternative to oak for storage of wine, spirits, that kind of thing. It's kind of fallen out of favor, but it happens. Very, very fruity. This is, of course, obviously an entirely malt whiskey. And it shows. There's lots and lots of just apple and pear. Little stewed quince in there as well. English breakfast tea. Manuka honey. I was expecting the finishes on these things to be very, very aggressive, and this one initially isn't coming off that way, or at least whatever the maple wood cask is doing, it's not pushing this significantly, far away from what I would expect from an old-fashioned, middle-of-the-road Scotch whiskey. Little touch of dried grass. Even a little bit of gummy worm in there. Some graininess coming through now that I'm swirling around a little bit more. There's some, overnight oatmeal happening. Little white pepper. Surprisingly subtle with the wood influence. A lot of it is just coming out in that kind of English breakfast tea sort of note, which is very prominent. It smells woody, but not woody in an excessive or weird way. Okay, let's see what happens on the palate. Ooh. Now that is different. There is a... Oh, what is that? Almost like a flavored chocolate, a spiced chocolate note coming out. To give this a little bit of color. Let me try this one more time. What the heck is that? Mmm. Be the neighbor's dog. Jeez. Okay, so have you ever had the like a chocolate bar with like some mixed nuts in it, where they like taken a whole bunch of nuts and crushed them up and like infuse them into the chocolate? That's kind of what's going on here. It's a very like nutty, crunchy chocolate, but it's like it's meeting with this very, very fruity, malty kind of character otherwise. So again, we're getting the pear, the apple, the honey, the slight dried grassy character, slightly floral. English breakfast tea, but also a little hint of oolong in there. Not a huge mouth length or huge finish. It hangs on pretty well. I mean, it's very, very solid, and in spite of the nutty chocolate thing, which I'm assuming is coming from the maple cask, if you just handed it to me, I would say, okay, this is some kind of malt whiskey. I mean, that's kind of what it tastes like. Okay, I'm gonna give that a perspective score. And we'll move on. Wait, no, I should add some water. At least 2 squirts, right? It's 52 odd percent, something like that. Two and a half. I like eyedroppers because within reason you can kind of control how much water you're adding, even more so than you can with like a spoon or something. These are great. Get one of these if you don't have them. Or just drink everything neat. That's fine with me too. All right, we are moving on to the next glass. This is cask number 6143. And this was, okay, so again, 7 years old, 103 proof, so 51.5% alcohol, And this was finished in a Pineau Des Charante cask. We talked about Pineau Des Charante on this channel before. It is basically what happens if you take, unfermented grape musk and spike it with some cognac and then age it all together in barrel, and it is delicious. Go buy yourself a Pineau Des Charante. I've never had anything finished. It's becoming more popular as a finish. I've never had a Pineau Des Charante finish before, let alone something with a secondary maturation. Again, these are all more secondary maturations than they are finishes. Interesting. So I'm definitely getting some grapey character out of this. Yeah, some like fresh grapes, raisins. Some fairly bright aromatic flowers happening. I mean, there's a lot of I'm smelling like Pineau Des Charante on this. And below that, you got like a lot of like oatmeal and stewed English breakfast tea. Not anywhere near as fruity as the previous glass. There's a little bit of apple and pear still in there, but not nearly as much. Quite a bit of pepper, actually, more so than the previous glass. A lot of black pepper. But as you might well suspect, there's it's really the Pinot cask dominating this. And I hate to say it, it kind of works. It kind of works. I complain about aggressive oak influences on, with fresh casks and things, but this actually smells very good. There's a slightly smoky raisiny quality to this. That is really kind of drawing me in a little bit. Okay, let's see what happens on the palate. So it's quite sweet. Let me push that a little further. This is like unabashedly sweet. This is absolutely a dessert spirit. It's not. We're not pushing into liqueur territory with this, but you can tell there is some sugar getting into the spirit here. But it absolutely works. Yeah, a lot of what is happening on the arrival and the development is just like Pineau Des Charante. It's Pineau Des Charante like running hand in hand with oatmeal. Like it's like a cheesy like romance segment in a TV show. Like slow down oatmeal and Pineau Des Charante running through a field and celebrating being in love. That's kind of what the arrival into the development of this is. It's quite sweet and delightful, and then like a wave of black tea and pepper just kind of shuts it down, and it's kind of great. In spite of myself, I am rather enjoying this. Yeah, there's some cinnamon. Oh, I like this a lot, actually. There's some Turkish coffee elements happening on this. The apple and the pear, not so much. There's some honey going on, some wildflower honey, a little bit of that manuka thing again. But it's really cask dominant, and really a lot of what's happening is happening in the front of my mouth. The mouth length is not great, but what it's doing with what it's doing is quite delightful and delicious. Yeah. I'm a fan. It's not subtle, but I'm a fan. let's give this some water. 1, 2. With all of these, I'm curious to see what water does. Again, I keep saying it on this channel, but I am not adding water because I'm a wimp and I need the water to enjoy my whiskey or my other spirits. I am trying to put pressure on the spirit, so I know like how it's going to react with the addition of water, with the addition of mixers, with with air. Like, what is this thing going to do if I leave it out for an hour? Like I probably should be doing, but I never do. Another half squirt. It just gives you another side of a spirit you're trying to evaluate. All right, moving on. Next up is cask number 4859, and this was finished, reed secondary maturation, in a Moscatel cask. Alcohol is 52.6%. Now, Moscatel is kind of the forgotten sherry grape, and with that sherry style. Everyone knows Palomino and the Palomino-based sherries. Everyone knows Pedro Jimenez, for better or for worse. Moscatel is a sweeter style that tends to be more aromatic and just not as syrupy. It's a little bit lighter on its feet. I also get like custardy elements from Moscatel sometimes. It's fun. It's definitely worth a shot if you see one. On the nose of this, okay, I'm going to start with stewed breakfast tea, honey, black pepper, because those are the common elements. Like the maple cask, this feels a little bit less aggressive than the Pineau Des Charante cask. And then I'm getting, the fruity notes. I'm getting the pear. I'm getting the apple. I'm getting the honey. It's just a little bit of like a... What is that? Some kind of fruit, like a floral orange syrup, almost like a... If you can imagine like there being a bergamot syrup, but more subtle than that. Something along those lines. That is kind of what I'm getting on this. So, but it's also very smoky and very peppery. Yeah, there's a definite citrus element to this. I'm getting some lemon here. Okay. Interesting. It's in some ways the vaguest of the three noses so far, but it's not the least interesting. Okay, let's see what happens on the palate. Also, just unabashedly sweet. These two right here, glasses 2 and 3, are absolutely just dessert spirits. Like there's no getting around this. I would not want to have this before a heavy meal. I want to have this after a heavy meal, maybe with a shot of espresso on the side. Let me try this one more time. God. Yeah, absolutely reminds me of a lot of muscatels that I've had. So take some dried flowers, little lemon peel, little orange peel, or maybe bergamot peel, and infuse that into some like egg custard. Make it even more floral, if that makes sense. And then like just smear that all over a malty character. And that's more or less what you're getting here. There's still a lot of pepperiness, a lot of stewed breakfast tea. If you like your malts to lean on the sweeter side, if you like PX malts, you will probably like this. It's a fun change, but it's kind of in that style. Oh, there's some like golden raisins creeping in now, but it's really like the citrus and the orangey bergamot thing are most of the fruits going on. But aside from the apple, the pear, the cask influence is not any less obvious than with the Pinot, but in some ways it's letting the malt shine through more. That being said, I might still like the Pineau Des Charante more than this. I don't know. These are tough to score. Like they're very delicious. There's plenty going on, but with all three so far, if I start to really think about it, they're not. The mouth length is not great. The finish isn't super duper holding on. But I'm enjoying them, right? I have a smile on my face every time I try every one of these. And sometimes that's all that matters. 2. And let's go 2.5. Got a little splash back there. Oh. That is sweeter than the Pineau Des Charante, which I wasn't expecting. All right, moving on to the Banyul finish. This is 62.57. Same kind of deal, 7 years, total maturation, 51.4% alcohol by volume, and this was finished in a Banyul cask. Banyul is a dessert wine made in kind of the Languedoc-Roussillon region, so central southern France, and kind of along the coast there. If you can imagine that little dip where Spain turns into France turns into Spain. There's a little dip there in central southern France, which is along the sea. That's kind of where Banyul, Maury, a lot of these places are, which are making this style of wine. It's a red wine, but it's a fortified dessert wine. So it's in some ways France's attempt to do port, but it's also just very different. I love Banyul. I think it's one of the best wines in the world to go with chocolate. They inevitably work a lot like port, but they're also just so much more grungy and dirty, and at the same time like maritime. And I absolutely appreciate that style. Go buy a Maury or a Banyul or any of those styles of wines, especially if you were having like a flourless chocolate cake anytime you're in your future. All right, let's give this a shot on the nose. Definitely getting some strawberry characteristics, a little touch of raspberry as well, which is what I would expect from red wine maturation. A lot of black pepper as well, and the stewed tea thing that's kind of carrying through. There's apple, but it's almost more like baked apple or even burned apple happening. Touches of Maduro cigar, like good Maduro. This is not the the crappy $5 ones where they've cheated making it. These are the proper, really aged, properly made Maduro leaf cigars. Little hints of aromatic honey, clover honey this time. It's interesting. It's much more. So in my brain, when I think Banyul, I think like like barnyardy. Like they're great wines, and they're very decadent wines, but they're also just very stinky. And I am not getting that on this. It's very clean in style, but I appreciate that too. On the palate, oh damn. So at this point in the video, I really wanted to be like ranting and raving about how much I hate red wine finishes and red wine maturation, but I can't because this is excellent. This is really good. Uh, in some ways, it doesn't. I don't actually think this is any less sweet than the Muscatel cask, but the other elements this is bringing are helping this to kind of control itself better. There's more bitterness here. There's certainly some strawberry happening there, but there's also some slight like leafy elements. There's some I know this is obscure, but cassava leaf. If you've ever gone to like a Senegalese restaurant and ordered the saka saka, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That kind of leafy bitterness. There's also some coffee elements going on here, like bitter coffee. But then the overstewed tea, and there's some that baked slash burned apple thing is happening. Honey, different kinds of honeys, clover honey, but also some like the manuka, even some forest honey, slightly sour honey. This is annoyingly good. I like this. It's achieving a balance just a hair bit better than the previous one. I don't know. For me, at this point in the tasting, and this is it's kind of between the Banyul and the Pineau Des Charante. For me, those are kind of on a little bit on par, in the lead. Yeah, it's that leafy, grungy, earthy bitterness, kind of balancing off the sweet elements. That's kind of making this for me. Good malt. I like it. And you can tell, like underneath there is basically good quality cask. This is not. They haven't just taken some dead wood and then washed some Banyuls syrup around in there. They've actually gone through the work, it feels like, of sourcing a decent cask to age their whiskey in. How quaint is that? All right, moving on. That was the France trying to do port secondary maturation. This is the port maturation. This is 3788, and it is 51.6% alcohol. And this is the one where the secondary maturation was in port casks. Now, I have had difficulty with port casks in the past. It can work, especially when you kind of extend the maturation period beyond just a couple of months to, 2, 3, 4 years, as is the case here. So this could work. Maybe. Ooh. Much more kind of medicinal than the Banyul cask was. Interesting. Yeah, there's a little bit of an iodine note. It's floral, but it's almost more of a floor cleaner floral thing than actual flowers, but nice. Dig deeper, and strawberry, some fennel, kind of herbaceousness. What is that? Peppermint, maybe? Yeah, let's go peppermint. Yeah, peppermint and fennel. We're getting our beloved hippie toothpaste note. Yeah, absolutely. But you have the strawberry mixed in there. You have the malty elements, right? You've got the black pepper. You've got the stewed tea. If you're watching at home and playing a drinking game, every time I say black pepper or stewed tea, take a sip. Actually, don't. You'll get yourself in trouble. It is quite muddy, which I appreciate. In a way, this is actually grungier, especially if you when you spend more time with it than the Banyul cask, which I was not expect. I was expecting the Banyul cask to be the stinky one, and it's actually more the port one. Interesting. Yeah, let's give this a shot. So there's a little bit of a cough medicine kind of character going on here, which I'm enjoying. I appreciate on the palate. Ooh, okay. I might be losing my mind, but I think this might be peated. I wasn't really getting on the nose, but there's a hint of peatiness happening on the palate of this. Let me try this one more time. Westland does do some peated malts. I think this is one of them. Yeah. Uh, okay, so the peat is kind of front and center. It's a very clean peat. It's um, quite a. It's not really an Isla peat. It's there's some medicinal stuff going on, but it isn't like Isla medicinal. We're not talking Lefroy here. The peat here is just a clean, straight left cross of peat, straight into your mouth hole. Black pepper over stewed breakfast tea, of course. And then the port stuff, like the earthiness, the little hints of strawberry, the floral character. It's not a peat bomb, by the way. I think it's got a hair bit more peat character than the rest of these, and it's just because the rest of these didn't really have any. It's showing up as more obvious to me. It could be completely unpeated, and I'm about to be embarrassed, but I don't think so. I think this is lightly peated, or light to medium peated, I should say. It works. Let me try this one more time. A little sour cherry in there. I don't know. I know there's a tendency among internet whiskey reviewers to rate anything a hair bit higher just because it has peat in it. But for me, I don't know. I kind of like the Banyul cask better, which I wasn't normally. I wouldn't expect that. I would have expected the peater to be wetting out here, but yeah, no, not quite. Interesting. I want to come back to this one though. Two and a half. Maybe it's not peated. I don't even know. I don't know anything anymore. Moving on to 60 to 63, which was another maple finish, secondarily matured cask. This one bottled at 52.1%. Otherwise, same stats as the rest. Much more kind of green than the cask way over here. This first maple wood cask was much more fruity and kind of extroverted, in your face. This is not that. This is throwing some. Yeah, I think that's peat. I'm not sure. I didn't read up on the stats of these that deeply. But yeah, there is like a almost a maritime peat character going on here. Nuttiness, like a green nuttiness. Some kind of burley tobacco. Definitely a burley tobacco character on this. There is apple, there is pear, there is honey, but they're kind of subdued and playing background roles. And there is also black pepper and overstewed tea. Okay, let's see what happens on the palate. So the nose on this for me was not super duper exciting, but the palate is quite good. Um, ooh, this might have the most impressive mouth length and finish of any of these. It's really just hanging in there. So a lot of ash, like natural leaf cigar ash happening. A lot of like burn to nutshell. That maritime peat thing, a little sea breeze happening. Slightly floral, but more honey driven. Floral honey, more so than actual flowers. And again, like you've got the pear and the apple and the quince in the mix, but they're kind of hanging around in the background, playing a supporting role. Black pepper, overstewed breakfast tea. Um, in some ways, this reminds me of a lot of the peated Speyside whiskeys that I've kind of enjoyed over the years, or even like Ardmore or something. Maybe Ardmore is the closest point of comparison. Very, yeah, chewy. There's a vanilla fudge, confectioner's fudge kind of thing happening here. The nuttiness is quite impressive. I wonder if that's the maplewood cask doing its thing. Hard to nail down more notes on this. It's quite good. It has great length, great finish, but it's kind of all kind of tying into itself. It's very knotted in a certain respect. So I'm wondering if water will improve that. Let's give this a couple squirts and come back to it. But very good. One of the best ones here so far. All right. All right. So summary so far. These seem like they're kind of separating into two tiers for me. The ones that are good, but maybe not super exceptional. You've got the first Maplewood cask. You've got the Moscatel cask and the port cask. Are we just actually skipping one each time? I think we are. And then you've got the more exceptional ones, which are good, but not reaching great yet. Which are the Pineau Des Charante cask, the Banyuls cask, and the second, I think, peated Maplewood cask. So let's go back through these, give them a final score. All right, going back to Maplewood Cask number 1. Yeah, definitely just much more kind of fruity and clean than the one over here. I don't know what else to say about this. It's you know, pears and apples and porridge and breakfast tea. And like some, you know, interesting funky honey notes. But there's not really a whole lot to say about this one. It's just nice on the palate. Ooh. The palate sweetens up in a way I wasn't anticipating. I remember this being like fruity and outgoing when I tried initially, but now there's like an interesting like wood sugar sweetness coming through. It's not quite maple syrup, but we're giving a little nudge in that direction. Yeah, maple sweetness is what I'm getting. And it's kind of interweaving with this very fruity, malty core that's, you know, kind of held up by a nice, solid, you know, pepper and tea bitterness that is holding this together. I will say the mouth length and the finish do improve a bit with water, and I'm going to take that into account with my score. Certainly not, you know, the most profound malt I've ever had. Not even those most profound American single malt, but it good. I like this a lot. I'm going to give this a flat. Oh, it's not writing. 85 out of 100. Let's move on. That actually stepped up quite a bit with water, which is a good sign. Like often with finished whiskeys, or even secondary maturations, water does not do good things. So I'm happy to see like good things happen with the addition of water, and it gives me some hope with the rest of this flight. All right, moving on to the Pineau cask. Yeah, this is in some ways like the second maple cask in that the nose is a little. It's tough to decipher. There's a density to it. It smells dark. It smells raisiny, grapey, kind of floral, which is kind of how it smelled before. So really not a ton of development maybe. But where I really enjoyed this was on the palate. Let's see what happens. It's really delicious. It's really delicious. But the sugar on this is absolutely seducing me. I hear its siren song. But if I take back and analyze this, you know, the finish and the mouth length, and especially the nose, really aren't any better than I was getting on the previous one. So, yeah, what do I score this? No, I'm gonna give this the same score. I feel like I like this better because it's just so darn delicious. Hold on, let me try the maple one more time. Yeah, no, the Pineau Des Charante cask gets the same score, 85. But But, this is the one I would own between these two. Just because it's so yummy and has a much more obvious role. Like, this is a fantastic dessert malt. Oh, it's raisiny and grapey and just slightly like citrus sour, bitter, and it's got that same bitterness in the back end that all of these have, but the sweetness is just making it delightful. Oh, I love this, but I can't give it a higher score. 85. Oh, that hurts. That hurts my soul. Okay, moving on to the Moscatel. We shall see what this did with water. This, for me, what came across as the sweetest of the bunch, or at least the most... it was the one whose sweetness was least balanced off by other elements. No real change on the nose. If anything, the malt has stepped forward a little bit. There's more kind of oatmeal-y, cream of wheaty stuff going on. Yeah, that's about it. There's some nice floral elements to this on the palate. It is sweet. And it does balance it off, though. There is some nice bitterness, a little sour, barley sour, lemon sour happening. Some floral things kind of overlaying the whole thing, but I don't think it balances those elements off as well as the Pineau Des Charante cask does. Let me try this one. Let me try the Pinot one more time. I think the jollof rice is doing a job, by the way, because by this point in the last video, the the Armenian eau de vie video, I was gone. And here I'm still holding up. Look at me. Yeah, this Moscatel cask, it's good. It just isn't nailing the balance in the same way that the previous two casks were. I'm going to give this an 84 out of 100. Nothing wrong with it. It's just like, you know, not winning out among, you know, better athletes. Okay, moving on. These are exhausting, by the way, these long flights. Okay, now we are on the Banyuls cask again. This is one of my favorites from the first run through. God, you can tell it's a red wine cask. The strawberry, the raspberry are really obvious, but it just feels so clean. And I wonder if that's the magic of Grenache. Grenache is probably the big grape in Banyuls. There's others too, but Grenache is the big one. Grenache is this wonderful kind of low tannin red wine grape. It can be very Pinot-like, but it doesn't offer the kind of interesting savory stuff that Pinot does. But on the other hand, it's much easier to grow and it's much cleaner. And it's low tannins, and maybe that's the magic of this. You just don't have the tannic elements going on, the kind of big honkin' red wine elements that I expect from a red wine cask, even a port cask. I don't know. What am I getting here? The strawberry, the raspberry, kind of hoppy syrupiness, but nice. Mixed cigars, English breakfast tea, black pepper, honey. It's a good nose. I would not be shocked if this was the winner for the night. let's try this out. With water. How do I put this? There are whiskeys out there that you need to get to that third sip to kind of let it build, to kind of see what they're doing. This is one of those with one of those spirits. On the first sip, I wasn't sure, but like on sip 2, it's starting to take over my palate in a way that's actually very impressive. It's absolutely decadent. It totally is. It's bringing a lot of just like strawberry jam, raspberry syrup, but that leafy bitterness and the coffee is just balancing it out so well, and it's so completely, just holding on to my palate. I can't help but be impressed with this. This is really darn nice. Do I like it better than the Pineau Des Charante? Yes, I do. I like the Banyul better, and I'm actually kind of shocked by that. 86 points. 86 points to the Banyul finish, Westland. It's fascinating to have, like, and I know that that's why they did these releases, right? It's fascinating to try, like, basically the same whiskey, that's gone through different barrels, different secondary maturations. Because there's a lot of things that are held constant, but they're all given different shadings by the behavior of the cask. Interesting. All right, 2 more glasses. Let's see what my palate has left. I feel just beaten up, like in here. I feel like the rumble in the jungle has happened in my mouth. I'm going to be happy to not taste any more spirits later after this. Okay, moving on to the port cask. I really wish they'd tell you what kind of port. Is it a ruby port? Are we talking, is it an LBV? Is it a tawny port? What the hell are we doing here? It's still a very just mercurial nose. It's sort of hard to pin down. It's you get the red fruit elements and some fennel and some leafiness and some medicinal stuff, but it's just hard to nail down. It's hard to kind of unravel. But it's nice. Okay, on the palate, here we go. It's got to be peated, right? I mean, it just... My brain is screaming peat, peat, peat at me. So and I can't see myself being that far wrong. I think this is a peated malt. Peat, clean peat. Slight leafiness. English breakfast tea, pepper, fennel. Same thing as on the nose. It's just hard to tease those notes out. There's some coffee grinds. Again, you'd think the peat would lift this, give it, but in many ways it's just less giving than the Banyul cask. It's good though. I can't knock this too much. I'm gonna give this. Can I get up to 85? Let me try like the maple cask again. Yeah, I mean, this is worth an 85. Everything gets an 85 today. Except the Moscatel. Sorry, Moscatel. 85 points for the port finished Westland. Oh, and finally, it is time for the second Maplewood cask, which I think is peated. It's just there is that very subtle peat note on the nose, light to moderate peating. If anything, the nose is kind of receded a little bit from where it was. Peat, kind of general nutty woodiness. You know, stewed breakfast tea, black pepper. Are you sick of me saying that by now? You should be. You know, some flowers, some nice aromatics. Yeah, well, in any case, the important thing to say is it doesn't feel like it's developed a whole lot with water. Let's see what happens in the palate. Ooh, okay. Water brings out a weird astringency. What is that? It's like a wood astringent. It's almost like a, if you could imagine a sour maple syrup note, that's kind of what's creeping in now. No, so on second sip, it's kind of fading away. It's not completely fading away. It's still sort of there. Yeah. Yeah, so a lot of maritime peat, a lot of vanilla happening. That weird, just maple, like sour maple note, which I think I'm negative about. I'm not too negative about it. I have feelings. Oh man, what do I score this? In some ways, this is one of the best malts here, but that little sour note is kind of knocking it down for me. I'm going to give this an 86 minus. 86 minus for the second Maplewood cask. So there you go. That is your lineup. You have got The surprise winner for me, the Banyul cask with 86 points, followed by this excellent but slightly astringent Maplewood, I think peated Maplewood cask with 86 minus. You got a whole bunch of 85s, the port finish, or port secondary maturation. It's got an 85. This Pineau Des Charante cask gets an 85. And this first Maplewood cask gets an 85. And then, you know, also fine, but not my favorite of the bunch, the Moscatel cask, 84 points. And yeah, that's the lineup. Thanks for watching an hour of me talking about Westland's secondary maturations. And yeah, I hope this is informative in some way or other. And cheers.